Hey, here we go.
All right, it's Super Centex After Dark, in the dark, as I'm coming to you from the back seat. That's how we do it.
It's what we do in the Shadows version.
That's right.
Anybody gets that reference gets bonus points.
Right. Real quickly, because last week I think we saved the blowouts for the end, and that's not really giving people a reason to stick
around and
till
listen.
the end.
But hey,
right.
Part of being a football fan is relishing those blowouts. So maybe it does give people a reason to stick around.
Well, we're gonna get the blowouts out of the way. That's what I say. So
I'm
just gonna go. I'm gonna go talk about my game, which Midway clinch a playoff spot tonight, 64-21. So, Chad, you know David G. Campbell well. We talked earlier this week, maybe yesterday, and he was like, Midway's going to be able to score on Brian's defense. Well, he was right. 64 points the Panthers put up. Now,
Aaron McNair, baby.
Brian was a holding. Yeah. So it was more like ground McNair some of the game because he had a big, long, like 56-yard touchdown run. He did throw a pass, but and he made some really nice throws. He ended up with nearly 300 yards passing. So he did connect on some downfield throws. But what was interesting was they'd get these long throws and then they'd get down inside the 5 and they just run it in. So they ended up with 8 rushing touchdowns on the night for Midway. They just dominated. And it was a holding call away from being 16-14 in the first quarter. And then Brian had a touchdown that is settled in. Played good football. They got Coppersville next week. Still have a chance at that share for the district championship. And what they really want is the number 1 seed in the 6A Division I playoffs from the district, because that gets them a home playoff game in 6A. That's how that works. So good game for Midway. Let's go talk to Zach, who also saw a blowout. La Vega handled Conley pretty well, right, Zach?
Yeah, for sure. I could argue that this game was over after the second series of the game. Connolly La Vega started the game with just they just marched down the field, ran like 6 times in a row, and then hit a 37-yard touchdown pass to open the game. And then on the next drive, Connolly had a big play to get down into the red zone. And they were first and goal, right? First and goal from inside the 5. And so they run 3 times right into the line, and then they go for it on 4th down to try to tie the game and everything. And they call a little like running back, like jump pass, and it goes out of the back of the end zone, incomplete, all of it. And from there, La Vega just was in cruise control. They dominated the running game. They controlled the clock. Their defense was incredible. I feel like Berdrick Scott, I don't know how to say his name, and then Warren Richardson are kind of their edge rushers. They were seemed like they were in the backfield the entire game. They didn't let Connolly into the red zone other than that first drive until the 4th quarter after a 21-yard rush by Jamarian Vincent. But then that play was followed immediately by 3 straight sacks to get them back to midfield, where they eventually punted. So it was just like La Vega just dumb. They had their backups in the 3rd quarter, and what is it here? Courtney Parr, he averaged more than 21 yards of completion. He only threw the ball 9 times, but he had 152 yards and 3 touchdowns. So La Vega was just rolling. And
what about our star viewer, Bryson Rowland?
Let me.
Right, Bryson told somebody he watches our podcast, right?
Yeah, there you go.
He told DJ that.
17 carries, 112 yards, and he had one pass that was a 15-yard touchdown catch.
Awesome. He's getting closer and closer to another 1,000-yard season, which I think would be 3 for him in his career, maybe 4.
He's had a good. He's good. He's had a great career.
Great career.
He reminds me of
career.
Ashton Genty watching Boise State when I got home. Like just kind of that stand. He has that. He stands up in the backfield, and it seems like even though he gets hit a lot, like early on, like he powers through it, and it's just he's a like not breaking any news here, but he's really good.
Yeah.
And I know that all of you deal with Don Hyde more than I do. Is he ever happy?
No.
The answer is yes, but it's not always easy to tell.
I think he's got that game edge about him. He's got, and you know what they're talking about wanting to play for it all, and I really think they might have a chance to do that. So we're not going to see much let up in the head coach there at La Vega High School. I don't think.
Here's how. Oh boy, big bump. Here's how I'll put Don Hyde. He's similar to Rod Adelines in that he perhaps he's not going to like this at all. He perhaps is a Tootsie Pop in that he's crusty on the outside and soft and gooey in the middle. Look,
Bryce Cherry, ladies and gentlemen, Bryce Cherry with that comment and commentary.
For Stefan, their guy that Stefan Jameson, who's been around there forever, who had a house fire earlier this year. Don rallied the troops, and they've been, trying to get him a new place to live and all that. So he's got a heart. Don Hyde has a heart.
Well, and here's the thing about Rod, and everybody knows about Rod is happiest when he's grumbling about something.
Yes, and that's probably Don Hyde too. All right, let's move on. Your game too.
It's true after dark form, and I think.
Go ahead,
Bryce. I think you might be getting a little bit of that quality Calvert Wi-Fi signal.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're past Riesel now.
Oh, okay. You ought to be good. You ought to be good then.
Yeah, getting close to the loop. So tell me about Gatesville Robinson.
Well, Robinson won 24-10. They shut out Gatesville in the second half, and that despite Robinson had quite a few personal foul penalties tonight. Also, some offsides in the first half that kept the Gatesville drive alive. Basically, gifted Gatesville a field goal because Gatesville converted a 4th and 4 on a Robinson offside penalty where they lined up offside. Kept the drive going. Missed a field goal, but not so fast, my friend. Offsides on Robinson again, moved it up to the 3-yard line, and so they kicked a 20-yard field goal to tie the game. So it was a little bit of that tonight, and I thought I might see I might see an unhappy Chris Lancaster too, which would be a theme for the year. 12 4A Division II coaches that are mad after wins, but he was more what would you say? He was had a broader perspective on things. He knows they got to clean up those penalties. He knows that they got to keep getting better if they want to keep going in the playoffs. But he also knows 3-1 in that district is a dang good place to be. And in fact, I just did some figuring on the field and then confirmed it when I got home. They cannot be passed for second place in that district. Mm. So they can get a share if Lorena rises up and beats Gatesville. If Lorena rises up and beats La Vega next week, not going to happen. But if it does, Robinson and La Vega would be tied for first place. Still, it would be La Vega with the tiebreaker. So you pretty much got first and second set there. Then 3rd through 6th, still anybody's ball game.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's get one of the other blowouts out of the way. Was Kevin Hoffman at least satisfied tonight, Levi? I assume so after that game.
Yeah, I think so. He said, well, this is a crazy stat. Actually, first, the great Michael Haig once told me death taxes and Mart up by 50 at halftime. And yeah, they dominated. They outgained Frost 670 to 260. Sorry, my retainer is like messing with me. They clinched a share of the title tonight in their district. This is their 9th straight district title. They haven't lost a district game in 10 years, which is crazy to think about. And Kevin Hoffman was excited after the game. I think he was trying to tell his team to focus on next week, because it's not technically wrapped up, but it basically is. I think the main thing that I've noticed about this Mart team, I wasn't around obviously when they were really, really good, like a couple of years ago, but in comparison to last year, I think there's a few more bodies on that sideline. I think they're deeper. I think they have like 4 to 6 legit guys that if you can get the ball to, like, good things are going to happen. And most of those kind of 2A schools, it might just be 1 or 2 good athletes, but I think they're really loaded across the field. They have a really good defense, and their quarterback, D'Angelo Rhodes, had a great night, threw for 300 yards. Their running back, Ahmad, what's his last name? Ahmad Scott is a pretty good player too. He had 2 touchdowns, and then DeMontrell Medlock's playing receiver this year, and he had 3 touchdowns tonight. 5 different guys scored, so they're just really good, man. I think they're gonna have a deep run into December.
That's actually a change.
Yeah, so Medlock
last,
actually, yeah,
a couple weeks probably.
They flipped quarterbacks like recently.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
I
because
want
he
to
was
say
playing
it's been
quarterback
like
last year.
maybe, what was that game?
Well,
Somebody
was it-
covered a game where Medlock came off the field and was like
Yeah.
really upset even though they
Yeah.
won.
That's
After
the one
that
I covered.
game-
That
yeah,
was the
after that
that was
game,
the
they switched
Mart.
him.
Yeah, that was the Mart at Chilton game. And
Okay,
yeah,
I must
I
have been
assume
out
he
of
hasn't
town
played
that-
quarterback
I was
since.
out of town that week. I did not know that, but I think the offense flows better with Rhodes. Honestly, I think he does a better job of just spreading the ball around. And Medlock is so tough to tackle when they run screens for him, and they used him in the backfield quite a bit tonight as like a wildcat guy. So they're super talented.
Yeah, DeMontrell's a guy that wherever you play him, he's gonna make an impact. I mean, and obviously he wasn't their starting quarterback going into last year, and then ended up taking that job once they had an absence after that to Jonah Ross. But so yeah, that's cool to hear that. I mean, it sounds like La Vega and Mart are really starting to round into shape just at about the right time with the playoffs.
I was in the press box tonight having my Gatesville press box meal, which, by the way, I didn't rub that in properly earlier, but I tell you, I guess it's J&M barbecue that they bring up there, and it is just, I mean, to get that for free and to watch a football game, it just doesn't get any better than that. But anyway, I was eating my barbecue, and in the press box was Waco High legend Johnny Tusa and the incomparable Tom Barfield.
Nice.
And visiting with those guys, and I was like, hey, you guys played La Vega last week. I get the feeling La Vega is, shifting into high gear. And they're like, yeah, Robinson's good and La Vega is really good.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Michael Haig, so you were out in Rosebud Lot, your first time out to Travis, Texas. And it looked like Marlin got the job done, right?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Clinched a share of the district title, which is good. I mean, obviously good for Marlin. That's, something that the Bulldogs have kind of had their sights set on even going back to the end of last year. They obviously had a good year last year, but probably didn't reach the heights that they wanted. And so, yeah, they're really locked in. They're really motivated. Similar to Zach's game. I mean, I think Zach said by the second drive, his game was like virtually over. You could feel it. This one, I think about 3 drives in, you could probably feel that here too. They raced out to a 19-0 lead in the first quarter, and I think So the first two drives, all of those drives were 3 plays or less. One of them was a 1-play drive. It's just they dominated offensively, and
that's another
yeah.
team building up a head of steam going into
Yeah.
the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's good to see that those playmakers are really coming alive. I mean, they had 4 guys combined for over 300 rushing yards today.
Wow.
Yeah, and Roderick Suitors is just unbelievable. He threw for a couple touchdowns, and you think of throwing as like a forward motion. These were lateral screen passes to Caden Judy, who it was kind of a la Brock Purdy to Debo Samuel. Just get it to your playmaker and let the dude run 70 yards to the house. And that they did that twice in the third quarter. So he had 2 passing touchdowns,
But it didn't
and
get
he also
called
had 2
back
the
on a
run.
holding penalty, though, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it was clean. There weren't a lot of penalties really on both sides. Maybe more so for a Rosebud lot, but yeah, it's one of those deals where Coach Hicks knew that they were going to be tough going in. I think they could have probably tackled better. He said that, obviously we didn't tackle, or he said we didn't tackle as well as we wanted to. But when you're playing a team like Marlin, where there's playmakers all over the field, they're going to be slippery. They're going to make their plays, and it, at least, and this has kind of been me beating an old drum all season long. Like, I feel like with the loser, at least recently, the losing teams that I've covered, like, they still have stuff ahead of them, and that is the case for Rosebud Lot. If they handle business against Crawford next week, they're going to be just fine. And that's still a talented team. They're young. I know he told that to DJ earlier this week. They're really young, and these types of moments are only going to build them up better moving forward.
Yeah, when we were previewing that district, I think on the regular Super Centex podcast, the one we do in the daytime, we didn't really know who to pick out of that district, and actually, we were even kind of leaning toward Rosebud Lot. DJ was definitely on the Rosebud Lot train, but give it up for Marlin, give it up for Jeff Rogers, first year head coach there for the Bulldogs. Obviously figuring out at the right time. All right, let's get to some of the closer games, and that would be Daniel saw a game that I didn't think was going to be as close as the final score was. I mean, how good was that game, the Bosqueville-Axtell game, Daniel?
Well, so it was a slow start. I mean, Bosqueville and Axtell. I think Axtell opened the scoring on an 8-yard touchdown rush, which didn't come till the second quarter. Then Bosqueville answered, and on the kickoff, they had a player get ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct. So us up in the press box, we were all confused. Axtell really struggled to throw the ball. They couldn't. AJ Fetch couldn't. He finished 5 for 10 with 4 total yards. So they subbed in their running back, Colden Horn, to run the Wildcat, and he just went off. He finished with 123 rushing yards, all coming from when he played at the quarterback spot. He had 3 total touchdowns on the ground, had 1 passing touchdown on a 25-yard touchdown. And late in the game, it was a 17-point game, and Bosqueville just came down, scored, went for the 2-point conversion. Didn't get it. Onside kick, didn't get it. So Axel was really able to run on the clock. But there was a lot of, as Coach Horn said, there's a lot of things that they still need to fix going into playoffs. Special teams, they gave up an onside kick coming out of the half. They gave up 75-yard touchdown run, fumbling the ball here and there. So a lot still to work on. And they said, Coach Horn said they've got their starting quarterback coming back next week, so they're looking forward to him getting some reps in heading into playoffs.
That could be big. Here's what's interesting, and I think Axel is most focused on breaking through, getting past that first round of the playoffs. But elsewhere in that district, the Itasca Wampus Cats pulled off probably the upset of the night in beating Italy.
Wow.
I saw they were up at the half, and I was like, how the heck is Itasca beating Italy? And then Italy came back and scored and tied it, but that was the last I saw. I was like, wow, like I every time I talk to Ricky Torres, he's always talking about how they're building something, they're working towards it. I feel like, their non-district schedule was a little bit tougher than some of the other like teams in the bottom half of that district. And then obviously you're playing some other really good teams at the top. I mean, like Dawson, Axtell, Italy are supposed to be the cream of the crop in that group. So that's really big, like for
22-21 tonight for the Wampus Cats.
Yeah. And I know on Marlin, the last time I saw them play was before district play, before the bye week, and they were playing against West. And I feel like obviously their non-district schedule was obviously built to prepare them for district. It was really tough. First year, who was their defensive coordinator last year, but I feel like they were just like figuring stuff out. So I guess like I had the feeling they were going to be all right. I guess I just wasn't impressed in that game because some of the mistakes they made were just like really inconsequential, like silly things, right? Like things that you would feel like you shouldn't be getting these wrong. But I mean, I'm not surprised. And I didn't realize that Rosebud had been starting 7 freshmen. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well,
Heartbreaking the comma tonight.
Oh my gosh.
I
was sad leaving that stadium.
Let's get a Kalachi report first.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Heartburn, then heartbreak.
Closed, right?
Huh?
Village Bakery was closed.
It was closed, and I had to loop back around to Check Stop.
Which is not a bad thing.
Which is, don't even, I love Check Stop. Like, it's great. I got a box of 9.
Yeah, you were eating one earlier in the podcast.
I was eating 2. I was eating my last 2 kielbasa, so my sausage and cheese ones, because I had a ham and cheese one before the game because I hadn't had anything to eat since like noon. It's been a week. But yeah, obviously I was just like really feeling the emotions, not just of the game, but of like this is possibly the last time that I cover a game in West, Texas. So I was really feeling it. But
man, you love West. I don't think anybody's ever like felt that strongly about West, but you dig it, obviously.
I could get that. I could feel that. I mean, one of the great things about covering a game in West, I mean, I think I do it every time I go out there too, is to get, some kolaches and good people out there. I mean, good athletic programs. So I get it. I'm on board with that feeling.
Yeah, I don't know.
It went to overtime.
It went to overtime, and a lot of the people in the stands were not happy that the Trojans were running the clock because they had the ball last, right? Like they were like they wanted to see, them win it in regular time and during the quarter.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see Dub Crane put up some big passes because the thing was, and when I talked to Coach Woodard and I asked him, what was the game plan going into the end of the fourth quarter and then overtime, and he was like the special teams and the defense was what made this game. And so like especially in the second, nobody scored in the second half, right? Like first half, West comes out, Zebras hold them to a 3-and-out. The West defense then holds the Zebras to a 3-and-out, and then the Trojans come out and put together this like long drive. It takes up like 6 minutes on like several Aiden York carries, and Dub Crane added a couple of passes there to get them out of some tough spots, and then at the end it was a 5-yard slant to Kai Cook that put them on the board. And they had other opportunities to score in, late in the first quarter and in the second quarter. Like they got inside the Zebra 5 at the beginning of the second quarter, they were 4th and 2, right? Because they had an incomplete pass. It was 4th and 2, and they decided to kick a field goal, like a short field goal. And this doesn't happen very often because Bryce Cunningham is a really good kicker, but it went wide, and so they missed it. And then, I mean, in the first quarter, they had an interception from Nick Munoz, not Zach Munoz. That's a different kid on a different team. No, I was actually texting Michael and Levi. West has 4 kids named Aiden, and they're all spelled differently. So I was like,
I can confirm.
By the way, I have a submission for all name team from my game tonight. Gatesville kicker Leonardo Leon.
yes.
I thought about that when I went out there, and he's good too. Like he can drill him.
Yeah, but and then so they had the interception. They couldn't do anything with it. And then I think at some point in the second quarter, they end up fumbling the ball, and Grandview recovers. And then like it took one play to put the Zebras on the board. Like I think his name is Mason Landers. He's also a sophomore. He just threw it straight up the middle, and their big kid, Blue Hubbard, like just caught it over his shoulder and took off. It was like watching Racing Stripes, right? Like you're not gonna catch him. And then they took the lead on another big pass, a 29-yarder to Gavin Carroll, and but then Bryce Cunningham, who'd missed a field goal, comes out, and like it's the end of there's maybe like not even a minute left to play in the first half, and he just like cuts out of his, like he cuts right in front of the pass at like the 40-yard line. And I mean, West is really good at blocking guys, especially on those plays, so he came in with the pick six and then kicked the extra point to tie the game going into the half. And so nobody scores in the second half. There was their first drive after holding Grandview to a 3-and-out to start the third quarter. They pick up a pass interference, and then in the next play get a holding call. So they picked up the 15 yards for the first down, and then lose 10 yards on the holding call, and they couldn't get past it. And
so is it 17-17 at half?
No, it was 14-14.
So West kicked a field goal in overtime, and Grandview scored a touchdown.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So so that was the thing, is that they like I said, like in the second half, like the punting was just really good, and so they were playing a lot of field position. And in that last drive, there was like 2 minutes left, and I mean, Dub Crane has gotten more comfortable at quarterback, and he's had some big passes. Like I said, like in the first half, he had some big passes to be able to get them out of tough spots. That one for 21 yards that was really good. If that pass interference hadn't been called, they would have been in the red zone. Same with the 4th and 2. Like if that pass had not been defended so well, it would have put them at the goal line. But they're like inside their 30-yard line with 2 minutes left, and like can't really get anything going in the run game. Like Aiden York had maybe like 95 yards on 26 carries and didn't score anything. Like all of his yards were pretty short. Some of the bigger runs were Ledger Nardell going in under Wildcat. So at the end, they made some mistakes, they had some turnovers, they just couldn't really do much offensively. And they Coach Woodard said they felt more comfortable trying to make something happen in overtime rather than try like a big play, like a big Hail Mary at the end of the game or something like that. So I mean, but Cunningham gets a 40-yard field goal. It was one of the more like I want to say, I don't say this a lot, but you don't see a lot of like really pretty field goals sometimes. Like the kick will, I don't think people will describe it like that, but like it just kind of art like it looked like it was low, but then it just started picking up height and then went in, and the crowd was like really hyped up, and they're like, the defense had been playing so good. So I feel like West did everything right that they could have done. But then Grandview's gonna put in like their big guy to like they had a really like these are two teams that have really big guys in the line, in the trenches, and just blocking real well. And at the end, it was Gavin Carroll who like cut out for the touchdown in the back corner of the end zone. And
Gravy's got big receivers too.
Yeah, like all those guys are just enormous. And I mean, we've been talking about it all year. This district has been brutal. And to hold, I feel like nobody has like held Grandview to like this low of a scoring output in district play.
Well, there's no question that West can play defense, and there's two cliches about defense. We all know them. One is defense travels. The other, defense wins championships.
Yeah.
We'll see if that plays out for West, but clearly the Trojans are going to be a tough out in the playoffs because that defense is going to keep them in games. Is that everyone? Did we cover everyone?
Yeah.
I had to say about the fans wanting to see West go for a touchdown or a score there at the end of regulation. Sometimes it's hard to know what's going on the sideline, and sometimes those guys are thinking about what's going to get us beat as much as because that's not necessarily what the fans think of, and it kind of makes me think of my man Eddie Van Halen back here and a Van Halen song called "The Inside." And it's like, that's what's going down on the inside. Don't let this get around to the outside.
I'm pulling into our driveway, Janet is, and so read all about it on wacotrib.com. I appreciate all of y'all who hopped on and all of your stories. I can't wait to read them, but in the meantime, go to friggin' bed. See ya.
No.
Bye.